Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar organized by Secours Islamique France on climate-compatible development projects in WASH. I am Laura Lefloc. I'm Advocacy Officer for Secours Islamique France, and I have the pleasure to be your moderator today. Secours Islamique France is a French humanitarian and development NGO. We provide access to WASH for the most vulnerable, and we strongly advocate for an effective implementation of the rights to safe water and sanitation and the achievement of SDG 6. We thank SIWI first for the opportunity to share our experiences and thoughts on water and climate change during this World Water Week. As we all know, climate change will exacerbate the risk on water with a huge impact on vulnerable populations who already don't have a sufficient and sustainable access to safe water. In 2030, UN Water predicted that 700 million of people will be displaced due to intensifying scarcity. No doubt migration will be a coping strategy to climate change. So how to reduce vulnerabilities in WASH to mitigate the impacts of climate change on the most vulnerable, and how to increase the resilience of communities. In the end, what is a climate-compatible project in WASH? This webinar will focus on good practices of WASH resilience projects for vulnerable people so they can adapt to climate change. On a higher level, as we are on the road to the 26th COP, we are also wondering how far is the integration today between climate policies and water policies? What is the place of water in the climate negotiations today? To answer these questions, we host today 3 panelists who will share their knowledge and case studies. I will introduce them first, and then they will proceed with their presentations. So first we will hear Mr. Moutari Abdoul Madjidi. Abdul is an advocacy and campaign manager for Save the Children in Niger. He is actively involved on climate change issues and closely followed the UNFCCC processes as ambassador of the African Adaptation Task Force of the Climate and Development Network. Abdul worked for Dernier in Niger or WaterAid before joining Save the Children, and he has a strong experience in civil society capacity building to better integrate climate in WASH development projects and policies. After Abdul, we will hear Mrs. Erum Baloch. Erum is country program manager in Pakistan for Secours Islamique France. She is specialized in disaster risk management and has been working for more than 19 years as a humanitarian and development professional in Pakistan. Finally, we will hear Mr. Jean-Edouard Martin, who is Deputy Manager of the Water and Sanitation Division at the French Development Agency. Before joining the French Development Agency in 2017, Jean-Edouard took several managing positions in Suez, the world-class French water and sanitation company. So I thank the 3 of you for speaking today. But just before giving the floor to Abdul, let me clarify some technical aspects. So please note that your microphones are off, so you can hear the presentations in the best conditions. So please keep it muted. And you can use the chat box to ask your questions to the speakers, and we will answer them at the end of the presentations during the little Q&A session. This event is recorded and will be posted online on the SIWI YouTube channel. So now I give the floor to Abdul, who will explain what is a climate-sensitive project and give us some thoughts about the challenges we face on the road to the next COP in Glasgow.
Merci. Bonjour chers tous, je m'appelle Moutari Abdoul Madjidi. Je suis coordinateur plaidoyer et campagne à l'ONG Save the Children Niger. Je remercie les CIF pour cette opportunité offerte à moi d'apporter ma modeste contribution à l'occasion de cet événement d'une importance capitale qui est la Semaine Mondiale de l'eau. Alors, le thème de ma présentation, c'est l'eau et les changements climatiques des négociations internationales sur le climat en passant par l'intégration du couple eau dans les projets de développement et autres politiques sectorielles. Alors, pour la présentation, je pense que je vais résumer brièvement puisque nous avons juste 7 minutes et le temps ne nous permettra pas d'aller beaucoup plus en détail. Je vais faire un résumé synthétique. Nous reviendrons si vous avez beaucoup plus de questions. Pour l'eau et changement climatique, je commence par cette assertion qui dit que l'eau et les changements climatiques sont des éléments distincts mais qui forment un seul problème de développement durable. Pourquoi? Parce que tout simplement l'eau c'est la vie, on a coutume de le dire, l'eau c'est la forme de toute vie sur Terre. On constate de plus en plus que l'eau est impactée par les changements climatiques et a des conséquences énormes sur la vie des populations, notamment sur la vie des écosystèmes. Résoudre les problèmes de l'eau et du climat, c'est alors résoudre une bonne partie du problème de développement durable. L'eau est une sorte de nexus entre l'agriculture, les écosystèmes, l'énergie, la paix et la sécurité, mais également une connexion avec l'eau potable et l'assainissement, l'eau douce. L'accord de Paris prévoit la limitation du réchauffement climatique de 2 degrés Celsius à 1,5. Mais quand on regarde les tendances actuelles, elles montrent que le climat se réchauffe, la Terre se réchauffe, d'où on constatera une multiplication de phénomènes d'extrême climatique qui vont davantage impacter sur la ressource en eau et causera un problème de disponibilité, de qualité, de montée des eaux. Et il y aura un sérieux problème sur la communauté. L'eau dans les négociations. Avant la COP 21, l'eau n'est pas un sujet de négociation, bien que dans la plupart des rapports, notamment les rapports publiés en 2008 et en 2013 par les GIEC, les experts ont alerté sur l'impact du changement climatique sur la ressource en eau, notamment dans les pays en développement et les pays insulaires. La fin 2015 était caractérisée par un certain nombre d'événements dans lesquels la question de l'eau est apparue comme sujet majeur pour l'après 2015. Il y a notamment la conférence d'Addis Abeba sur le financement du développement et aussi la fin des OMD qui a coïncidé qui est caractérisée par l'adoption des objectifs de développement durable en septembre 2015 où un objectif spécifique est dédié à l'eau, notamment l'ODD numéro 6 qui vise l'accès à l'eau et à l'assainissement partout et pour tous. Mais également en amont de la COP 21, il a été demandé aux pays d'apporter leurs contributions via les contributions prévues déterminées au niveau national. Donc, selon une étude, 93% de ces PDN qui portaient sur l'adaptation faisaient mention sur l'eau. Dans l'accord de Paris, l'eau n'est toujours pas apparue comme sujet majeur dans les textes ratifiés. Certes, il y avait une mention au niveau du chapitre adaptation. Cependant, lors de la COP 22 et de la COP 21, il y a eu le lancement de plusieurs initiatives en faveur de l'eau. Il y a l'initiative Water is Climate, Water for Africa, l'agenda des solutions, etc. Toutes ces initiatives visent à promouvoir le secteur de l'eau. De la COP 21 à la COP 25, l'eau n'est toujours pas intégrée en tant que telle dans les négociations. C'est la grande déception, bien que la COP 22 était censée la COP de l'Afrique ou la COP de l'action qui a enregistré un certain nombre d'événements par rapport à l'eau ou même une journée spécifique était dédiée à l'eau. Mais malgré tout, bien que le Maroc a pris l'engagement d'inscrire l'eau dans les négociations, mais ça n'a pas abouti. Il y a eu des initiatives qui se sont développées de la COP 21 à la COP 22 pour faire promouvoir les secteurs de l'eau à travers des événements parallèles, des expositions, etc. Il faut noter aussi plusieurs CDN qui ont été soumises portent sur l'adaptation et l'eau est un des secteurs de financement du fonds vert. Ça c'est une avancée parce que au fonds vert l'un des secteurs était dédié à l'eau. Donc les pays peuvent faire des propositions par rapport à ça pour avoir des financements conséquents et mettre des initiatives sur l'adaptation, les secteurs de l'eau, etc. Autre chose, plusieurs CDN soumises portent sur autre chose de ça, je l'ai déjà dit. Alors, on passe rapidement à la diapo suivante, en route pour la COP 21, pour la COP 26, désolé. Les défis sont énormes, mais il y a des opportunités à saisir et des recommandations pour la prise en compte du couple eau et climat. En termes de défis, l'eau n'est toujours pas un sujet de négociation climatique, bien que les experts continuent de crier sur la sonnette d'alarme. Malheureusement, les CDN sur l'adaptation des pays portent sur les secteurs affolus, c'est les secteurs d'agroforesterie, etc. et aussi les secteurs de la RED+. Les financements dédiés à l'adaptation demeurent toujours insuffisants pour permettre aux pays de mettre en œuvre des programmes ambitieux sur le WASH. En termes d'opportunités, nous pouvons par exemple citer un certain nombre d'opportunités telles que la révision de l'ambition de 2 degrés Celsius à 1 degré. Donc il faut appuyer les pays dans la révision des CDN en priorisant les secteurs de l'eau. Également renforcer les capacités des acteurs et des pays à développer des outils basés sur des modèles climatiques en lien avec la gestion des ressources en eau. Alors, comment intégrer l'eau dans les climats? L'eau et les climats sont la meilleure forme d'adaptation. Les partenaires au développement des ONG ont développé plusieurs outils, méthodes ou modèles pour intégrer les climats dans les projets et politiques sectorielles. Mais toutes ces méthodes, dans leur diversité, présentent des caractéristiques communes, notamment par exemple la combinaison des savoirs scientifiques et savoirs locaux, les diagnostics participatifs avec les communautés locales, l'utilisation des études de cas, etc., etc. Je pense que compte tenu du temps, nous allons revenir dans les questions, ou bien si le CIF pourra bien organiser un autre événement pour discuter en long et en large sur comment intégrer les couples eau et climat dans les politiques et projets. Qu'est-ce que nous faisons à Save the Children? Save the Children est l'une des organisations internationales présentes au Niger qui interviennent dans les secteurs de développement et de l'humanitaire. Save est présente dans 4 régions du pays avec un bureau de coordination à Niamey. Comme vous le savez, le Niger est un des pays du Sahel qui fait face à des événements d'extrême climatique. Actuellement, c'est les inondations qui sont en train de causer d'énormes dégâts sur la population. Et SCI au niveau Niger et au niveau global considère les changements climatiques comme étant une crise intergénérationnelle ayant des impacts sur les breakthroughs. Nos différents breakthroughs, c'est vraiment droit à l'éducation, droit à la survie et droit à la protection. Étant une organisation qui milite pour les droits des enfants, SCI a fait des déclarations par rapport aux effets du changement climatique sur les droits des enfants. Comme vous les verrez dans ces diagrammes, il s'agit de 6 engagements que nous voulons respecter dans l'avenir. Et c'est pourquoi, dorénavant, les changements climatiques doivent être intégrés dans tous nos projets de développement et humanitaire. Actuellement, nous avons 2 projets en cours dans plusieurs thématiques où nous appuyons les communautés. Voilà, il s'agit d'un projet Wadata et du projet Rise 2 qui sont tous financés sur 5 ans chacun par USAID et qui intègrent la résilience des communautés à travers l'élaboration des politiques climato-sensibles, etc., etc. Et pour finir, pour ne pas occuper trop de temps, voici un exemple d'outil organisé par CARE pour intégrer le climat dans les projets de développement. C'est outil qu'on appelle CVCA. Ou le modèle cristal qui se base sur comment on l'appelle, l'analyse des vulnérabilités de communautés sur l'adaptation à travers un certain nombre d'outils. Il y a qui sont la matrice de vulnérabilité, voilà le calendrier saisonnier, le calendrier, la chronologie des histoires, les diagrammes de 20, l'arbre de risque, l'analyse de faisabilité et également l'adoption par les communautés elles-mêmes. C'est l'aspect le plus important du plan d'action d'adaptation communautaire où un certain nombre d'actions d'adaptation sont identifiées, classifiées par les communautés et qui vont être analysées en fonction du degré de faisabilité ou pas. Il y a aussi l'analyse des prises en charge des questions HR dans la stratégie et autres. Donc c'est vraiment un outil très intéressant qui permet aux communautés d'analyser elles-mêmes leurs propres vulnérabilités et d'intégrer ça dans les actions, dans les stratégies locales, vraiment d'adaptation ou de résilience communautaire. Pour ne pas trop parler, on a déjà une douzaine de minutes. Je pense que je dois m'arrêter là et à vos questions. Merci pour votre écoute et je reste disponible.
Thank you very much, Abdul, for this enlightening presentation. And of course, if you want to ask some questions to Abdul, please use the chat box and we will try to answer them on the Q&A session. So now I give the floor to Erum, Country Program Manager in Pakistan for Secours Islamique France. She will present SIF experiences and how we work in Pakistan for increasing wash resilience for communities. Erum, you can go ahead.
Kilometer coastline along the Arabian Sea and plains and rivers in the east of the country. And because of this geographical diversity, Pakistan is also prone to natural disasters. With alarming population growth rate, urbanization, and increased industrialization, the situation is likely to get worse, with millions to be affected by water shortages in coming years. SIF is working in two districts. These are actually very diversified districts. One is Orakzai Tribal District of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and the other one is Tharparkar District from the Sindh province. The Orakzai district is marked by a decade of fight against terrorism, leading to complete dismantle of wash infrastructure. And being the mountainous area, it also contributes significantly in making water access difficult for the local communities. Tharparkar district is mostly desert area affected by recurrent spells of drought with most of underground water with high TDS, which is ranging between 6,000 to 20,000 milligram per liter, which is way above the WHO standards. 89% of the underground water is not fit for human consumption in the desert area, which is affecting adversely the food security and agriculture sector. There is also lack of health, education, road network, and other basic facilities, which makes the local population more vulnerable. And these persistent drought and the continuous displacement, these are leading to the frequent migration and displacement of the local population. In addition, the climate has also impacted on the water situation in these areas. As there is an increased influence of natural phenomena on precipitation of Pakistan, Pakistan's watershed area, the Indus Basin, is also exposed to vulnerabilities due to the melting of glacier retreat, increase in sea level, severe flooding, soil erosion, intrusion. And because of the monsoon delays since 2010, these are also resulting into heavy rainfall, which are inducing flooding in the mountainous areas and scattered rainfall in the desert areas. And sometimes there are very low or less rains in the desert areas, which are also impacting on the groundwater table and the recharge, and subsequently impacting on the agriculture productivity, and the food security situation. And because of this, the fodder will also be not available for the animals, and the prices will also be going high. So the people, they are compelled to leave the area with their livestock to find the fodder and the food for their survival. And they are also in the need to have the seasonal labor outside their drought affected areas to find the daily wage work. And because of this, they are also compelled to sell their livestock and their belongings and take loans on high interest rates, which is also contributing into their vulnerability, which are already existing. There are also certain challenges in the water-related programming. There is lack of consultation with community to learn the indigenous knowledge and practices to learn the localized, cost-effective yet sustainable water solutions. Because the technical solutions, they need extensive and expensive maintenance, and sustainability becomes a question when there is lack of financial resources, there is lack of availability of supplies, and the equipment and operations and maintenance trainings are not provided to the local community. The water contamination situation has also aggravated over the period due to improper solid waste management. And there is also lack of political will, financial resources allocation, commitment on work progress, and capacity strengthening from the government side. And there is also need to ensure balance between improper water access and safe drinking water availability in areas like Tharparkar. There is also lack of funds for replicating innovative and sustainable solutions at the larger level to improve the situation. And there are certain delays in implementation of climate smart policy reforms, which we already discussed in the last presentation. The safe water intervention in Tharparkar, they mainly focus on utilizing the indigenous knowledge and the practices to ensure water availability in these areas. We are improving access to the water and protecting existing water structures through rehabilitation of the duck wells and animal ducts, as you can see in the slide. We are also constructing communal water storage facilities like communal challo ponds, kachitarais at the natural depressions to ensure water conservation. We are also constructing indigenous household-based water storage reservoirs, the nadi ponds. You can see a small reservoir in front of the two houses in the picture. We are also trying our best to build the community's capacities in operations and maintenance of these support provided to them through improved knowledge, skills, and equipment provided to them. And we are also conducting interactive games on climate change adaptation with focus on water conservation techniques and health and hygiene to also focus on the contributing factors. SIF successfully implemented hydroponic grass production for livestock, which ensured the provision of nutritious grass to the livestock and improved the productivity. And we also launched trees plantation campaigns in desert areas to contribute in improving the climate-related issues situation there. We have also developed the strong partnerships with the research institutes and with the government projects on water, including the Pakistan Council of Research in Water Resources, PCRWR, the Sindh Irrigated Agriculture Productivity Enhancement Project, with Arizona Research Institute and Agriculture and Livestock Department. Coming to Orakzai area, we are focusing on improving the water access through restoration and protection of natural springs, water sources through construction of communal water storage reservoirs, communal tanks, and water ponds. The household level water storage tanks are linked with the gravity flow schemes by installing water supply networks system to ensure availability of water at household level. We are also introducing climate smart agriculture through community capacity building on vertical farming, intercropping, and orchards management with the support of donor funded project with WFP as well as with the future interventions. We are also providing technical backstopping through Public Health Engineering Department and Agriculture and Extension Departments on improving water management and utilization. And we foresee to build on the climate smart agriculture farming in these areas by establishing partnership with Arizona Research Institute on establishing 2 baseline agriculture farms of the berries and dates in Tharparkar district. It is based on successful experimental research with usage of high TDS water. It holds strong potential for replication, upscaling, and providing sustainable food security and livelihood sources to the communities. SIF, in collaboration with SIAPEP and Agriculture Department, also intends to promote the 5-color kitchen gardening technique through drip irrigation system to ensure the provision of nutritious vegetable to these populations. Coming on the recommendations, we see that there is need of extensive consultation with the communities to learn indigenous knowledge and practices to learn local, cost-effective yet sustainable water management solutions. We also need to focus on the conservation and optimal utilization of rainwater for agriculture and other domestic purposes to improve the water management. We also need to discontinue interventions impacting on groundwater table and the recharge. We also need to replicate the innovative models and incentivizing the climate smart agriculture. And there is also need to ensure the continuous lobbying for the implementation of area development plans for sustainable growth and development of these people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Erum, for sharing Secours Islamique France experiences in Pakistan. Time flies, so I will right away give the floor to Mr. Jean-Edouard Martin, who I recall works for the French Development Agency, and he will present interventions in Congo and how they respond to climate-related challenges. Thank you, Jean-Edouard.
Thank you very much, Laura. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I will present you rapidly some concrete example of our projects that we are financing in the Republic of Congo in relation with climate change and water. Just as a foreword, who is AFD? So AFD is the French Development Agency, financial institution. Could you go to the next slide, please, Laura? Not the previous one then. I could not see the previous one yet. Thank you very much. So we are active in more or less 110 countries at the moment. And in terms of financial commitment, we have committed 14 billion euros in 2019 in all sectors of intervention, of which around 10% is dedicated to water and sanitation. And in terms of strategy for water and sanitation, just to say that we are very much aligned, of course, with the SDGs and with the Paris Climate Agreement. We are all our projects are 100% compatible with the Paris Climate Agreement, and we've got very strong objectives on having a positive impact on adaptation or mitigation within our project. Let's go directly to the next slide to gain some time. So in terms of water and sanitation interventions in Congo financed by AFD, what's interesting in this portfolio of projects is that we've got a rather large spectrum of examples of climate-related challenges in water projects. So my first example will deal with rainwater management and erosion control. We are working with the government of Congo in a large spectrum of cities, in the largest cities of the countries, Brazzaville and Pointe-Noire, and also in smaller cities with the help, with the financial support of the European Union. And that gives us an interesting overview of the challenges and issues due to rainwater management and erosion control. So just an illustration in the next slide to have an order of magnitude of erosion issues in this country. So this picture has been taken in Pointe-Noire, which is one of the 2 largest cities of the country. And here we are really within the city. You can see some housings at the top right top of the picture. What I can tell you is that this ravine we can see here is 100% due to erosion due to increase in rainwater and anthropic use of the soil. What I mean is that 5 years ago there was a mountain here. There was no ravine at all, and some housings have already been destroyed by the erosion. So the challenges are huge, and the way to tackle these challenges have to be invented, because at the moment Congo is just starting to prepare a coordinated solution to fight against erosion in its cities. Next slide, please. So at the moment, communities are fighting against erosion, and of course they use the tools they have in their hands to fight against erosion. So what do they currently do? They use the solid waste or sandbags if they have a bit more money to install the sandbags and the solid waste in the zones where there are some beginnings of erosions. And what's interesting here is that community-based solutions, they are very interesting to take into account, but sometimes, and this is the case here, they are not really compliant with our own objectives of preserving the environment. So nature-based solutions to fight against erosion, like planting bamboos or planting vetiver grass, we know that those solutions can be efficient. But if you don't work upstream with the communities to convince them of the efficiency of the solutions you propose, they will never adopt it, because they have easier solution in their hands, and those solutions prove to be more or less efficient. So nature-based solution, my message here is that nature-based solutions, yes, it can work, but it has to be adopted by the communities in order to be efficient. I go directly to my next example, which is an example in terms of water supply on the water supply of Pointe-Noire. So Pointe-Noire is a coastal city, and we are currently financing the water supply master plan of Pointe-Noire. And as a coastal city, the main water resource for potable water for Pointe-Noire is an aquifer, which is, of course, linked with the sea. So this aquifer is very sensitive to salinity, and salinity is very sensitive to climate change due to the sea level rise. The higher the sea level, the higher the salinity within the aquifer. So at the study stage, at the master plan stage, when you are designing your future water supply system for the next 25 or 30 years, if you don't take the uncertainty due to climate change into account, you will face some severe difficulties within the coming years. So my message here, and it's very much aligned with the presentation of Abdul, is that you have to take uncertainty into account at the very earliest stage as possible. It is very easy to take uncertainty into account at the study stage, and it is very difficult to take uncertainty into account at the civil work stage. And this is another example which is very interesting. We are also financing the network, the water network extension and renewal in Brazzaville. In Brazzaville, the government of Congo is very much aware of the erosion issues. So when we designed the project with the government decided to dedicate an important part of the project to anti-erosion measures. And that's the example you can see on the picture on the left. The government, with the support of the engineer, decided to put in place a rather expensive solution to fight against erosion, which was supposed to be the best solution on the market, the rock basket. So this is basically an iron basket filled with rocks, put in place when laying on the pipes, and which is supposed to fight against erosion. But the picture on the left proves that this solution, this technique, has not been efficient. During the rainy season last year, erosion has been created on the course of the laying of the pipes. So this technique has not been sufficient. So the government has decided to stop the works and to design and choose other options of fighting against erosion. And they put in place a very interesting discussion with the community, with the local communities that are very much aware of the erosion issues in the zone. And the communities told them that their solution was putting sandbags. This is not nature-based solutions. This is not probably the more difficult technique to put in place, but it proved to be at the moment the best solution. So the company decided to switch from its own technique to the technique used by the communities. And at the moment, it has proven to be more efficient. But we will have to check and balance in the coming months or in the coming years. Just to conclude this presentation, and what are the lessons learned due to those 3 examples? Next slide, please. Some lessons learned. First of all, when designing a project in the context of climate change, take uncertainty into account at the earliest stage as possible. In the techniques you are using, be innovative or not. Sometimes the best techniques are very well known by the communities. And always check and balance, because the climate change, it's not within the next 20 years, it's right now. And the example of Congo has proven it to be right now. And it's only about uncertainty. So you always have to try to design a solution and check whether this solution is effective. And if it is not, balance and choose other options. And this is one of the major challenges we have to face when designing a project in the context of climate change. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jean-Edouard, for these enlightening case studies. So I think it's time for the Q&A session now, even though the time flies. But we can check if there are any question for the speakers nonetheless. And meanwhile, maybe don't hesitate to put in the chat box, just in a word or a few words, what you've learned from this session, or what particularly caught your attention. We will be saving the chat box as well. So here goes for the first question. I will ask maybe 2 questions. So the first one is, I think, for Abdul. Mr. Abdoul Moutari, is there a link between integrated water resources management and climate compatible projects? Donc, Abdoul, est-ce que Abdoul est avec nous? Est-ce qu'il y a un lien entre la gestion intégrée des ressources en eau et les projets climato-compatibles? Je ne sais pas si Abdoul est toujours connecté. Non, alors peut-être que je peux passer à la deuxième question si évidemment un autre speaker souhaite y répondre. If another speaker wish to answer this question, you're welcome. But there is another question about cooperation to achieve global goals on water management, and how can we encourage integrated work within sectors to achieve common goals? How to better talk to each other between sectors? So maybe Jean-Edouard or Erum, if you would like to answer these.
Maybe I can start. I can give some elements of answer for your first question as well, in terms regarding integrated water resource management and climate compatibility. Of course, what's interesting in this question is the word integrated. Integration is definitely part of the solution when dealing with development projects, and especially in the context of climate change, because it is very difficult to assess all the impacts of a development project, and it is even more difficult in the climate change issue. So the more integrated your approach is, the more likely you will be to identify the impacts and manage the impacts. So I would say integrated water resource management approaches are probably and definitely the best efficiency. But in order to put this in place, you have to, you can only put in place this kind of solution when you have the governance structure in place. Because managing the water resource in an integrated approach has proven to be efficient, given that, on condition that you have the governance structure in place. Otherwise, the individual interests will prevail, unfortunately. So this was for the first question. Maybe I can let Erum answer to your second question, Laura.
Yes, Erum, would you like to answer regarding the cooperation question, how to better cooperate within sectors?
Yes, it is very interesting question actually, and as AFT colleague mentioned, that we also need to understand the integration word within itself, that the more you integrate the sectors, the more you explore the opportunities and the challenges, how to deal with the challenges which are associated through integration. Like food security is very much linked with the water availability, and with the drought-like situations, and with the climate change. How we can improve the food security by working on agriculture sector, as well as improving the water availability in those areas. So as we mentioned that we are working on the baseline agriculture sector. So through baseline agriculture, we are improving the trees plantation to improve the drought condition in that area, as well as it is focusing on the kitchen gardening, improvised kitchen gardening techniques through drip irrigation system, as well as planting the orchards for the improved livelihood. So it within itself, it is a multifaceted approach, that it is focusing on the food security, livelihood, as well as improved agriculture productivity, as well as it will be ultimately contributing into the improved climate situation. So this is one of the examples. And when we talk about the water, we also talk about the effective management of solid waste, as because of the improper solid waste disposal, we are contaminating the water. So when we talk about the water, we also need to improve the sanitation services. We also need to focus on how effectively we can improve the health and hygiene awareness, and improve the practices at the local level. In addition, when we talk about the skills development, we also need to see that when we are talking about the scientific approaches, or when we talk about the technological approaches for the water and for the agriculture, how we can build their capacities and their skills, and ensure the availability through financing the equipment and the services and the tools, to ensure the continuity of these services, and to ensure the sustainability of the technological solutions and the scientific solutions. So if we see, then the whole spectrum is made through integrated approaches. Thank you. Hello?
Laura, we cannot hear you.
Hello? Yes. Okay, I think it's good.
Yeah.
So I was saying thank you all for the comments and the interventions in the chat box, and thank you, Erum, for Jean-Edouard for answering these questions. So I will now conclude the session. Can manage. My computer is very sensitive. I will check this way. Okay, so I can tell that we talked a lot about integrated water resources management, management in a sustainable manner, of course, preventing risk through nature-based solution or through community-based approaches, which is, I think, the core of the interventions. We talked about innovations, knowledge, local knowledge, combining with scientific knowledge as well. So the challenges are quite overwhelming, but we can tell that solutions exist, and as demonstrated by our speakers today. So we have, I think, to keep calling on strong commitments to fight climate change from all the water sector, but not only. And I wanted to share my final thoughts. I think water needs to be a priority in adaptation policies, and we have to push the water and the sector and the climate sector to talk to each other more. And even on projects, we talked a lot about integration. So it's a really important component. Stronger national commitments must be made in Glasgow to fight climate change and reduce the risk on water. And the participation of civil society and communities in development projects and policies elaboration must be supported and ensured. So I thank you all for attending today, and a special thanks to our speakers who agreed to intervene. I wish you a nice day or a nice evening, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.